Welcome to the Popcorn Talk Network, for the online broadcast network that features movie discussion, news, and interviews. Press 1.
Popcorn Talk. We talk movies.
From the Popcorn Talk Network, the online broadcast network for movie talk, Alicia Malone with Scott, Movie Mantz, and the Schmoes Know. This is Profiles. In-depth spotlights on the greatest filmmakers and artists in motion picture history.
Hello, Schmoville and Profiles. Today on Profiles, we go to infinity and beyond.
Oh, yeah.
We are profiling Pixar.
This is really exciting. This is the first time we have done a movie studio instead of just a filmmaker or an actor. And what a movie studio. I mean, how do you describe the magic that exists behind Pixar movies?
Well, first of all, the magic is in the numbers. You have 15 movies, including their latest and one of their greatest movies, Inside Out.
It's fantastic.
It is brilliant, imaginative, absolutely setting the bar even higher for Pixar. 14 previous movies that have grossed more than $8.6 billion worldwide. But with one film after another, their films are magical, they're clever, they're smart, they're funny, they are layered for kids to have fun and for grown-ups to be challenged with intelligence.
Yeah, without pandering to either side. I mean, they just work, I think, because of the story. And the thing that I realized when I was rewatching all these movies was how much humor and heart each of them have. I mean, I love that they talk about story being paramount. They've got the 22 rules of storytelling, which include things like you admire a character for trying more than for their successes. And Andrew Stanton, who's a big good father from Being One, and Wall-E is love conquers all programming. And I think because they focus so much on story, it makes it universal.
Well, it does make it universal. And again, I mean, since the inception of the Best Animated Feature Oscar going back to 2001, Pixar movies have won this award 7 times. Woo. 2 of those movies were nominated for the big prize, Best Picture.
Which is unheard of.
Unheard of, back to back, Up in 2009 and Toy Story 3 in 2010.
Yeah.
But these movies are you know, you asked at the beginning, what is it about these films? It's everything. It's the
characters.
And more than any other show we've done, this is our 33rd show, and we have never had this much activity on our Facebook page. Profiles with Malone and Mantz, people weighing in on the brackets. We had more than 60 comments from profilers who were weighing in on the movies that they loved the most, and their comments went on and on. It took forever to distill them down for the ones that we're going to read today.
I love that. It really hit home for most people. I think everyone loves Pixar movies in a way that you go to see Pixar movie unlike you see any other studio film. Maybe you go nowadays to see a Marvel movie or a Lucasfilm's movie, but you don't go and see a Warner Brothers movie because it's made by Warner Brothers. You go because of the stars and the story. But Pixar, you know you're always in for a good time.
Those 5 letters, of course, they go along with Disney because they are Disney Pixar films. You just know what you're going to get, at least you think you do, and then it goes one step further. Inside Out, their 15th movie, is a great example. Very experimental. Ambitious is a movie that I would use to describe Inside Out, because halfway through the film, halfway through Inside Out, I'm shaking my head going like, I need to see this movie again. There's stuff going on here that I don't even hasn't even registered yet.
So many layers. You can watch it, and I think this is true of all their films. You can watch it on the surface level and be like, this is a fun journey story. Or you can watch it on a deeper, more psychological level and really delve into it and delve into the emotion of every single movie. And especially Inside Out has all the emotions, and it makes you feel all of those emotions. Question for you.
Yes.
Have you gotten to visit Pixar?
I did go to visit Pixar in 2010. It was June 2010, right before the release of Toy Story 3.
How fun is it?
It is so fun. I didn't want to leave.
I think that's what they do. That's what they do to create these this environment that fosters these kind of inventive people. Is like Google. They make it a really fun place to be, so it doesn't feel like work.
And it's also away from the studios. It is nowhere near any of the Hollywood stuff. They can do their own thing. Again, even though they are Disney Pixar, they function as their own brand.
That's right.
They've got this brain trust. You mentioned Andrew Stanton, obviously Pete Docter, John Lasseter, the head guy of them all, Lee Unkrich, all the Ronnie Del Carmen, all these amazing Brad Bird. I mean, come on.
Do some movies.
I mean, it's unbelievable. And I know we always say, how fun was it to go back and rewatch these movies? I'm sitting there watching some of the movies, all of them that we have in our Fast Five today, shaking my head going, oh my God, these movies are fan-friggin-tastic.
And everyone's really excited on the YouTube live chat right now. People are talking about, I can definitely see Inside Out getting a Best Picture nomination, says Ben Kramer. Tyler Myers says, so freaking excited for Inside Out. Rachel Cushing says, with the up to 10 nominations for Best Picture, I think Inside Out has a shot for a nomination. And then Brian Sudfeld has seen my shirt and said, Alicia's shirt, ha ha ha. I don't know if you can see it, but it's Lotso the bear saying, I'm a hugger, which is perfect for me.
Perfect for Alicia. I'm wearing, my shirt has Wally on it, and it says hope. And amazing that the hope for the future would lie with a trash compacting machine. We'll get to all of that. And I just want to say about that prediction about Inside Out being nominated for Best Picture. Absolutely worthy. And we'll get into Inside Out later in the show. Oh, yes.
Now, this week we're not doing It's a Wonderful Life because it's a studio and not a person. So let's get right to First Blood. What was your first Pixar experience?
My first Pixar experience was the first Pixar feature film animated experience. This is Toy Story, released on November 22nd, 1995. Changed the game
completely.
I mean, let's look at all the ways this movie really changed the game. Look at the shift after that movie from cell hand-drawn animation to computer animated films. I mean, you know, you had Lion King, but then, like, when was the last time you really saw a computer animated movie? Even a movie like the Iron Giant, which Brad Bird directed, came out in '99. That was hand-drawn, great film, but it just didn't compare to, like, Toy Story 2, which came out that very same year. But yes, it changed the game, but it was also a great movie with a big heart. It was clever. It was fun. It was smart. It was all the signature moments that we still expect from Pixar 20 years after the fact, because this is the 20th anniversary of the release of the first feature film to be done with computer animation, and they are still topping themselves.
Oh, yeah. Well, this
what about yours?
It might surprise you, actually. I think it was even before Toy Story. I saw Luxo Jr., which is the short film.
Oh, with the lamp.
With the lamp, which became the Pixar logo. And the reason why I saw that was because my big sister Natalie, she studied computer programming and then she studied computer animation, and she really wanted to go into computer animation and start working on movies like Toy Story. Eventually became to be, and she showed me this Luxo Jr. short, and with the desk lamp, so it's got a father desk lamp and a son desk lamp and a ball that he's playing with, and the ball deflates, and it's pretty simple animation when you go back and look at it now, but she sat down with me and she explained exactly what went into making that short film, and I remember going, oh wow, okay, so it's hard to make a ball bounce and then deflate, and the movement, and I remember she was like, this is great animation, this is what I want to do. And then Toy Story came out, and then she still loves computer animation. She'll buy the art books for Wall-E and for Up.
I have those,
and read all about it. So that was my first blood, my first experience. And then I saw Toy Story, and then the love continued from there.
But it's just amazing because, like, for the last 20 years, these movies that just when you think they can't get any better, they do. I mean, just when you thought that Toy Story 3 or Wall-E or Up or Finding Nemo or any one of these films, Ratatouille, really raised the bar, you know, you go see Inside Out and you're just like, holy moly, that movie was brilliant.
I know. I saw it in Cannes and I was like, oh yeah, this will be fun, but I was blown away by it.
Yeah, totally blown away. But we have 5 movies to get to in our Fast 5, and coming in at number 5 is...
Dory.
I love this movie.
What are you doing? Are you sure you speak whale?
Finding Nemo.
Love it.
Released May 30th, 2003. Directed by Andrew Stanton. Total box office worldwide, $937 million. Woo! Nominated for 4 Oscars. 1 win, Best Animated Feature. Clever, fun, exciting, beyond charming and with a big heart. That scene in the beginning when Marlin looks at the egg and says, "I'll protect you." Oh.
Yeah, again, that was Andrew Stanton's sentence, "Fear denies a good father from being one." And I think the story is so relatable. I mean, it's funny when it's a story about a fish, but it's completely relatable. The characters are so vivid. There's such interesting character traits to each of them, like Dory with the forgetfulness, all the turtles, like the stoners.
Oh, how bugger, dude.
Or like Bruce the shark, like being very Australian. I think that's why the characters are so iconic. Anyone could name a Finding Nemo character, and anyone could name a character, especially Dory, and that's why we have Finding Dory coming out next year. Simple story of a journey, but lots of messages in there. Messages about the environment, about captivity, about letting go of fear, about being brave, letting your child go out into the world, or for a child, like going out into the world. It's pretty amazing what they are able to do with some fish.
And it's amazing, like you mentioned, Dory, they wrote this role for Ellen DeGeneres, and she killed it. It's really one of the great animated voiceovers. I mean, she's like, people, 12 years after the fact, people still talk about Ellen DeGeneres and Dory. I mean, they love Dory. It's perfect that they're going to do.
One of the great characters.
Yeah, it's just definitely one of the great characters. And of course, one staple of every single Pixar movie, Inside Out is no exception, is the presence of John Ratzenberger.
Oh, yeah. So
as we go through our Fast Five, we have to give a shout out to each of the characters that John Ratzenberger has played. In this one, he was the voice of the Fish School. Even whether it's big, like Ham in Toy Story, or small, like Fish School in Finding Nemo.
I love that.
I love that they find a way to use him. This movie was actually dedicated to Glenn McQueen, who died the year before in 2002. He was a Pixar animator, and they honored Glenn McQueen by naming Lightning McQueen in Cars after him.
Aww.
And Roger Ebert was quoted as saying in his review, I love reading Roger Ebert's reviews, "One of those rare movies where I wanted to sit in the front row and let the images wash out to the edges of my field of vision."
Well, that's the thing. It's so beautiful to look at this movie. I mean, I remember reading about how hard it is to animate water, but it just looks so gorgeous, and nature. I loved the way there was a lot of Australia
Oh, you must have loved it. I was rewatching it going,
references.
Alicia's going to love this movie.
Sydney Harbour. and such a great juxtaposition between the free fish in the sea and then the captive ones in the dental office, and also has some similarities, I think, to Toy Story in that way.
Toy Story and Up.
And Up.
Well, but you mentioned the dentist office. The dentist diploma, he graduated from Pixar University School of Dentistry. But I love the seagulls. Mine.
Yeah,
mine can't get enough of the mines. I kept rewinding it, going like, come on, it's one more high five. Come on, it's been a while. Okay, well, Rachel Cushing, who is watching our show live, who's definitely one of the best film critics I've ever read. Way to go, Rachel. She says, while just about every Pixar film hits you right in the heart, for me, the one that hits the hardest is Finding Nemo. This movie is on TV. I'm sitting down and watching it with a box of tissues on hand, ready for Dory's truly heartbreaking speech near the end. Everything about this movie is special. The story, the look, the funny moments, as well as the emotional ones. Pixar set a new standard with its truly groundbreaking, breathtaking underwater visuals and smart character writing. I mean, there's a clownfish that can't tell a joke, surfer dude turtles, and a shark named Bruce who's trying to give up eating fish. Fish are friends, not food.
Yes.
At its core, though, is a truly heartfelt story about an unconventional family. I have never laughed or cried so hard at a single movie.
I think it made a lot of people vegetarians in the same way that Babe did, because people didn't want to eat Nemo.
And Bruce, obviously a nod to Jaws.
Yeah, Bruce
the shark was named. That didn't work.
Danny B Reviews and Tyler Scott both remember the address of P. Sherman, 42 Wallaby Way, Sydney. That's so funny that it just gets in your head. I remember seeing that. I remember seeing Finding Nemo in the movies and just being like, oh, they're talking about Australia. I was so excited.
Of course.
So Tyler Myers says, out of all the Pixar films, the one I find myself going back to the most is Finding Nemo. I love the father-son dynamic in this movie. For Marlin the dad, he has to go against his overprotective ways to find his son Nemo. The film is also filled with so many wonderful characters, including Bruce the shark, Crush the turtle, and the main standout Dory, whose short-term memory loss serves for some of the best comedy of the movie. It's funny, touching, thrilling, and one of my favorite animated films of all time. Just keep swimming. Just keep swimming.
Well, I know the answer to this next question.
I know you know the answer to
I know the answer to this next question, and that's why I picked something different. But for the right stuff, for your favorite scene in a Pixar movie, take it away.
You know what I'm going to say.
I know what you're going to say.
The montage in Up.
Yes, that's what I thought.
Yeah, those 10 minutes. I never cry in movies, but this one gets me every single time, and I'll put it on sometimes if I'm feeling sadistic and I just want a good cry. But that whole montage, which tells a history of a relationship, a history of a marriage, and it's virtually silent. There's only a few lines of dialogue, scored beautifully by Michael Giacchino.
Yeah.
Became a Pixar staple.
And he won an Oscar for that movie.
It's pretty brave when you look at it, and pretty experimental of Pixar to do this in a kids movie.
Yeah.
Have that scene which packs an emotional punch, and they're not afraid to explore things like death in a kids movie, and all packed in that 10 minutes. I think it just shows the brilliance of storytelling. I've rewatched that part of Up way more than I've seen the entire movie.
And you know what's great about that scene? You watch that scene in Up, you're thinking, how are they going to top this with the rest of the film? And they do.
And they do.
Definitely one of the best movies. My Right Stuff, because I knew you were going to pick Up, and I'm like, I could just say, yeah, I agree for all of the above, but that's why my second favorite is actually from Toy Story 3, near the end of the film.
Oh my God.
When they are...
That also kills me.
They're just trying to get away from the fire, from being burned, and Woody is like, okay, everybody, let's go. We got to get out of here. And then they're all looking at him like, they're all grabbing each other's hands. They've all surrendered themselves to the fact that they're going to die, and they all look at Woody.
Sad.
Woody takes their hand, and then all of a sudden, the claw! And you're like, oh my gosh, that movie is brilliant. That scene, just because you've been with these characters at the time, came out in 2010, for 15 years, thinking, this is it. And
yeah, I thought that was the way the story was going to end. It was going to be really morbid.
Oh my gosh. I mean, the movie is dark. We'll get to that. But that scene, just like when I was rewatching all these films, in addition to Up, that's the scene that got me.
Yeah, that scene gets me too. That scene makes me cry because they're all holding hands. Oh my God.
Oh, they're all holding hands. The claw.
The claw.
Give it up for the claw.
Ooh. Now let's get into our last detail, our bits of trivia.
What do you got?
So did you know that George Lucas sold his share of Pixar for $5 million? Pixar was created in the 70s as part of Lucasfilm to assist with their in-house special effects team for Industrial Light and Magic, but Lucas was forced to sell after Howard the Duck failed and needed some money. So Steve Jobs stepped up with $5 million. Pretty incredible when you think in 2006 Disney bought it for $7.4 billion.
That's a hell of a return on your investment.
Oh yeah.
Well, speaking of when Pixar was working with ILM, did you know, Alicia Malone, that in 1982, Pixar and ILM created the first ever CGI sequence? It was the Genesis effect in Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan.
Oh, you always find a way.
Always find a way.
Either bring Star Trek or the Beatles into this whole situation. Well, my second bit of trivia was going to be about John Ratzenberger being a voice in every single one of the films, but see how we've already established that, I'll hit you with another one. Did you know the working title for WALL-E was Trash Planet?
Trash Planet. Boy, the title says it all, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Well, did you know that Toy Story 2, one of the all-time great sequels up there with Godfather 2, was going to go straight to video?
Oh, I read that.
Like, what?
And it was like a Christmas thing or something.
And Tom Hanks and Tim Allen are like, guys, you got a great movie here.
Yeah.
This is way, way better than a direct-to-video movie. And, of course, it was, and the rest is history.
Fantastic. Well, let's get into our Fast Five. Number
4.
It's all right, Alexis. You're doing a million things at once in there, and we appreciate it.
Oh, the cape and the boots.
No capes.
The
No capes.
Incredibles.
I had to put in a bit of Edna there because I love Edna.
Edna
Mode.
The Incredibles, released November 5th, 2004, directed by Brad Bird. box office worldwide, $632 million, 4 Oscar nominations, 2 wins for sound editing and animated feature. And, when people talk about the best superhero movies, which they do a lot these days, they have to include The Incredibles.
Yeah, I always forget to include it, but they should.
But they should, because it's not based on like a Marvel comic or a DC comic. People just don't include it. But this really is one of the best superhero movies. And it actually does have a lot in common with Fantastic Four, because some of the powers are similar. Elastigirl is a lot like Mr. Fantastic, that she can stretch, and it's a dysfunctional family. In fact, it was so close to the sort of ideals of Fantastic Four that the producers of the 2005 movie Fantastic Four had to make changes to their story after they saw The Incredibles.
Really?
So that's a compliment when they're like, guys, we gotta make some changes here. Yeah.
But it's much smarter than that Fantastic Four was.
True.
Because I love the way, again, like most Pixar movies, you can watch it on various levels. So you can see it as a superhero family dealing with everyday circumstances, or you can look deeper. And I like how each of the characters have to overcome something that is similar to their own power. So you've got Mr. Incredible, who is super strong, but he has to learn how to be super strong emotionally as a father.
Oh, that's a good point.
And then you have the mother who can stretch, but she has to stretch herself in a million ways to look after her family.
Right.
Then you have the daughter who is a teenager and awkward, and her power is to be invisible, and she is invisible in more ways than one. I just think that's so smart in that way.
And a superhero who is going through a midlife crisis, has a gut, the Elastigirl gets a big butt, things that happen to people as they get older. This is definitely a film for kids, obviously, because it's exciting, but this is a movie that grown-ups will definitely relate to. And John Ratzenberger, shout out here, he played the voice of the Underminer, and Michael Giacchino, who eventually won the Oscar for scoring Up. This was his first Pixar score for Incredibles, and he's great. And
Brad Bird was the first outside director for Pixar. He'd worked on The Simpsons. He, of course, worked on his first animated feature, The Iron Giant, which didn't do that well, but it was critically acclaimed.
It's great.
And one person in particular really loved it, and that was his Cal Arts classmate, John Lasseter.
Oh, well,
So when Brad Bird came to Pixar with a pitch for this movie, he took time to listen to it. And Brad Bird wanted to do a superhero spy film that was like a 60s James Bond or a 60s comic book series. And it definitely has that feel. It's like a spoof, a gentle spoof of the whole genre. And it's also got some other firsts. It was the first Pixar movie to feature humans as central characters, the first to be rated PG and not G, the first to be scored by Michael Giacchino, the first to almost be 2 hours, and then tons of technical revelations with this one. It's like a lot of things that had to do with skin and stretching and costumes.
Pushing the boundaries again.
Yeah.
Because they had just pushed the boundaries a couple years before with Monsters, Inc., with Sully's fur.
That's right.
And, they're still pushing boundaries again. Inside Out pushes a lot of boundaries. And Brad Bird, you're talking about how Lasseter saw Iron Giant and everything, but Bird came up with this idea in 1993 when he was inspired by his own challenge to balance career and family.
Yeah.
So he wanted to put it with a superhero family. Rolling Stone magazine said, it doesn't ring cartoonish, it rings true, which it definitely does. And Roger Ebert said it alternates breakneck action with a satire of suburban sitcom life. This is, again, one of the great superhero movies. Danny Birdsall, profiler, says The Incredibles is Pixar's most mature film. It takes everything 100% seriously. Adults talk like actual adults. You see the film from their perspective, which you don't really see often in animated movies. Brad Bird is a contemporary master of animation, knowing where to put the focus and how to make an ensemble of creative and memorable characters. The animation is stellar, and the score by Michael Giacchino is amazing. The choice to put the film in the golden age of superhero movies is ingenious, making it stand out against the boom of superhero films, but also showing us why we love them in the first place.
I just love reading the live comments on YouTube, because everyone's doing, including Alexis in the booth, are doing lines from the movie. Like, honey, where's my super suit? I put it away. You tell me where my suit is, woman. We're talking about the greater good. I'm your wife. I'm the greatest good you're ever going to get.
People quote these movies.
I love this so much. And Corey Quinto says what a lot of people are saying, which is Sam Jackson was hysterical as Frozo.
Frozo, yes.
Camille Howard also talks about The Incredibles, saying, of all the superhero movies that have come out in the last 15 years, The Incredibles is the one I can watch over and over and still adore it completely. The family scenes feel so authentic. You forget they're talking about having superpowers and not problems that every family faces. The voice acting is perfect. Brad Bird's direction is magical, and it's all tied together by a villain who could go toe-to-toe with Marvel and DC's finest bad guys. Hashtag Film Geek, hashtag Profile for Life.
Make sure you hashtag Film Geek. Make sure you hashtag Profile for Life. We love when people do that. That gets a high five.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And they mentioned something there that I think is good to bring up too with Pixar movies. It's how perfectly they match a voice to a character, where they use star voices, but it's not distracting.
But you know what? The thing about Elastigirl kind of looks a little like Holly Hunter. The way she talks out of the side of her mouth a little bit.
Maybe that's why it fits so well, and you don't even think about Holly Hunter in a way. It seems like the character.
It's the character. And same thing with Sam Jackson, whose voice is so identifiable.
Yeah.
But you're not thinking about Sam Jackson. You're watching the character. It's great.
That's so cool.
Okay, we're going to take care of some business right now. Very, very important business. Starting with the fact that we need your support to keep doing this. We love doing profiles. We know you love watching it and listening to it on iTunes. So please subscribe to our podcast, Profiles with Malone and Mantz, and make sure you rate and review us on iTunes. Boy, do we need these ratings and reviews. Even if you're watching us on YouTube, head over to iTunes and write down your comments, your reviews, and please subscribe to iTunes. Speaking of YouTube, if you're watching us on youtube.com/Popcorn Talk Network, please subscribe.
Is that even cool? Subscribe.
Y'all. And share with your friends, and make sure you have them share it with their friends too. Go to our Facebook page. This week we had more activity on our Facebook page, Profiles with Malone and Mantz, more than any other show that we've ever had.
Cool.
So fun.
Love it.
See all the activity. Profiles with Malone and Mantz. You can chime in on what your favorite movies are and why, because we do read your comments on the air. Chime in on the brackets, and we do use these votes, as you'll see very, very shortly. So please make sure you share this with your friends, and make sure you follow us on Twitter at Alicia Malone, at Movie Mantz, at Alicia Malone, at Movie Mantz.
It's all in the repetition.
At Alicia Malone, at Movie Mantz, and at Profiles SK, our Profiles Twitter handle.
Yeah, which Joshua Willingham runs for us, which is really nice. Now, a couple of other things. So when you're listening to us on iTunes, we are on the podcast network, Podcast One, and they are doing a listener survey at podcastone.com. So your responses will help us to make this show the very best it can be. It only takes about 3 minutes of your time. You get instant gratification knowing that you've helped us out, and you can tell us how you really feel about the show. Only good things, please. And help us to get to know you better, which we always love to do. So take the survey at podcastone.com and keep those tweets and comments coming, because as we said, we always love it. Also, something kind of cool and interesting. So here, the AfterBuzz Studios, where we do this show every day, every week.
We are grateful for them letting us do this. Yes, every 2 weeks.
Every 2 weeks. It's AfterBuzz Studios, and the founder and e-host Maria Menounos has a new show coming soon with Julianne Hough from Dancing with the Stars. It's called Dance Battle America, and it's on ABC Network. It's interesting because this came from her and Julianne doing just these Instagram videos where they would battle each other on holidays.
And someone picked it up and said, what a great idea for a show.
I know.
Why can't people do that about profiles?
Shows you can find shows anywhere. We just need like the followers that Maria and Julianne have.
Do it.
But this is your chance. If you guys want to be involved, if you want to dance for America, you can also get the chance to fly to LA to compete on the dance show. You go to dancebattleamericancasting.com for more information about how to submit your video for auditioning, and don't forget to also post it on social media using the hashtag DanceBattleABC. Have they seen moves like this?
No, she could shimmy. Once again, the website is www.dancebattleamericacasting.com.
I'm not even going to enter because I would win.
She would absolutely win. And can you blame her? Back to the show.
Back to the show.
Back to your favorite part of Profiles with Malone and Mantz. It's time for the quiz show. Woo! Okay, hit me up.
Oh, well, okay. My question is a pretty simple one. What does Pixar stand for? Is it A, an acronym of Pictures, Inventive, Animated Recordings? Or B, nothing?
I'm going to say B, nothing.
Correct.
Thank you. High five for that.
It is apparently a made-up Spanish verb meaning to make pictures, but it doesn't mean anything.
Well, it means all you say is Pixar, and you know you're going to get quality. But my question for you, Miss Malone, during the end credits of Up, Carl and Russell are seen going into a movie. What is the movie on the marquee?
Ooh.
Is it A, Toy Story? Is it B, The Lion King? Is it C, The Sound of Music? Or is it D, Star Wars?
It's Star Wars!
Yes, she's right! Give it up! High five for Alicia Malone.
What?
Well, what would...
Oh, Kate Stuff says no more dancing, please.
No more dance.
Sorry.
No, come on.
Okay.
Let the girl dance. She's got the move. She's got the profile shimmy.
That's all right.
Well, moving on to our next bit of information here. What would any Pixar movie be without the use of Jeopardy music, which we are done with?
Yeah. I'm like, as soon as... If it keeps going, then
There
I'll
we
keep
go.
dancing. Because that's
See?
what happens.
But that's what happens. She hears music, she dances.
I know, I can't
But
help
what would
it.
any Pixar animated feature be without a Pixar animated short?
Yeah.
So we have to pay tribute to the
They're
shorts.
so good.
And they're so good. My favorite is Presto.
Oh, Presto with the little
white
hungry
bunny.
bunny.
He wants his carrot.
And he's going to ruin the magic show.
He's going to sabotage it. This was shown before WALL-E in 2008. What I love about this short, Presto, is it feels like a Looney Tunes cartoon.
It does.
You can totally picture Bugs Bunny
It's
sabotaging the magician to get his carrot. It's so fun. It's so manic. It's so fast-paced. No dialogue.
Most of them don't have dialogue.
Most of them don't have dialogue.
And it works so well.
They always work well. What about
My
you?
favorite is Partly Cloudy.
Okay.
Which played before Up. And it's about a cloud and a stork. A stork who carries babies, and the cloud that creates the babies. The other clouds are creating lovely, cute little babies from all species. This cloud is creating very violent, very ugly babies.
Ugly
and
babies.
The stork has to carry them and gets all messed up. But it's really sweet. It's about friendship. And about, sticking by your mate no matter how hopeless they might be.
Definitely about friendship. I also love La Luna from 2011 that was shown before Brave. And it's really sweet, charming, magical about this Italian family. Again, no dialogue. And how they shape the moon's phases by sweeping up the stars on the moon. It's really, really inventive.
So cute.
And another one that I like a lot. What's interesting is that some of these shorts were made some of them years before the feature films.
Like Luxo Jr. from 1986 played before Toy Story 2.
Exactly. Chess. The man playing chess. That's
Alexa says the chess game.
a chess game. Which one is that?
With the old man playing chess.
Oh. We'll figure it out.
It's called Chess Game.
Yeah. Well, Knick Knack from 1989 is about the snowman in a snow globe who's trying to get out of the snow globe to be with the hot girl. And then ultimately he's foiled by it. It's so funny. And then what was another one that you liked?
I liked For the Birds, which played before Monsters, Inc. It's about a large bird trying to fit in on the wire with the other birds. A lot of slapstick comedy. It also won an Oscar. And Day and Night,
Day and Night is
played
interesting.
Before Toy Story 3. And that is interesting. Two clouds that kind of represent day and night and what happens when they cross over. But what is interesting about it is the sound design. I love like the weird use of sound. Like there's an axe sound for when night fights day, and it's not the sounds you would expect.
I also like how you're mixing the computer animation.
Jerry's Game is the chess movie.
Jerry's Game. Thank you for the shout out. There you go, Alexis. Yes, thanks so much, Profilers. Moving on to number 3.
And it's funny because, I was just going to say a lot of people in the live chat are talking about Feast and Paperman, and these are the movies that aren't Pixar. They're the short other ones.
Oh, interesting.
DreamWorks, I think. Are they DreamWorks movies or Disney? Do you remember the Feast, which is the short film with the dog? It played before... Sorry, I know this is kind of ruining the mood.
That's okay. No.
Played before What's the recent animated movie
Frozen?
with the superhero kids? It's just recently.
Big Hero 6.
Oh, yeah.
Big Hero 6. Oh, yes, that's right. Yes, there you go. Thank you.
So anyway,
oh, that's
those
right.
aren't
Yes.
Pixar.
Yeah.
I thought the same thing when I was thinking about short films. I was like, oh, I love Paperman, I love Feast, but they're different studios. Anyway,
Anyway,
back
but
to it.
there's only one Pixar.
Only one Pixar.
There's only one Pixar, and that is why, because coming in at number 3 on our Fast 5 is...
Wally.
Oh, Wally is joining us today. Wally! Coming in at number 3, released on June 27, 2008, directed by Andrew Stanton. Box office worldwide, $527 million, and 6 Oscar nominations. Obviously, the winner for Best Animated Feature. And I have to say that of all the Pixar films, this one is my personal favorite. And not only is it my personal favorite Pixar movie, but when I did my top 10 movies of the O's, the first decade of the century, Wall-E was number 2 behind Children of Men.
Wow, and what is it that you love the most about Wall-E?
Well, just just wrap your head around the fact that it is a post-apocalyptic love story between robots. Yeah. And you're rooting for the robots, and it works, and it's got so much heart, but it's about robots. But then there's all of the allegories and the cautionary tales about the messages about consumerism, corporatism, laziness, definitely laziness. Good gosh, humanity is doomed.
Loneliness,
and definitely the environment.
Yes, the environment.
There's so much going on with this movie, and I just thought, I'm just a big sci-fi guy anyway.
Yep.
But, this movie is always done, it does what sci-fi has always done best, which I think is make a film that's entertaining, but also carries a message about the future.
And that's what Pixar does really well, the messages without hitting you over the head with it. This is probably one of the most socially conscious film that they've done.
Yep.
But it fits with the story. You don't feel like you're being hammered with this message. I think it's a really experimental movie. It's almost like an art house adult film wrapped inside a kid's animation, because when you consider the fact that the first half of the movie is virtually silent, a little bit of robot noises and dialogue by Ben Burt, and then it moves to this whole other second half where they talk about these messages, and it's really dark. As you said, it's a post-apocalyptic film. I love the way the first half particularly and Wall-E are very much influenced by silent movies. It's Charlie Chaplin.
Definitely. Oh, that's true. Yeah.
So you completely understand without any dialogue exactly what Wall-E is thinking and feeling. And it's the same for Pixar's shorts as well. You don't need the dialogue to explain everything. You've got the movements and the eyes, and that's why he really comes alive. He's so sweet. And the story with him and Eve, it's a really nice love story.
It really is such a sweet love story. And I just love that up until Eve shows up, his best friend is a cockroach.
Yeah.
A sweet, cute little cockroach. That's what I mean. It's like, we're talking about a cockroach here.
Little plant that he saves.
The little plant.
So
and,
sweet.
Wall-E, it stands for Waste Allocation Load Lifter Earth Class. And Eve stands for Extraterrestrial Vegetation Evaluator. And I love Peter Gabriel's song, Down to Earth, was that they used during the closing credits. Really, really beautiful film. Another thing I noticed, and I didn't really pick this up the first couple times I saw it, during the closing credits, the images you see are of humanity rebuilding the Earth. Like, they've come back to Earth.
I don't think I've ever stayed to watch through the credits.
And I was watching, I was like, it just started because I'm watching it at home. I was like getting up. I was like, wait a minute. The ending credits are a montage of humanity literally learning hope. Just like Wall-E says, hope, to literally get back on its feet and repopulate the Earth, save the Earth. And I mean, again, this is a movie I was watching and shaking my head going, this is absolutely brilliant. John Ratzenberger, shout out, voices John in the film. The music was by Thomas Newman, whose brother Randy Newman did You've Got a Friend in Me from Toy Story. And Roger Ebert said this movie is enthralling, a visual wonderment, and a great science fiction story.
And once again, Andrew Stanton, when he thought about the story, he distilled it to one sentence, which is love conquers all programming. Because when you consider how different Wall-E and Eve are, and their look, where they come from, everything about them, but it still works as a beautiful love story. They're meant to be together.
And you don't want to mess with Eve.
No.
You know, you piss her off, boom!
She's a tough woman.
Yeah, she is a tough woman. Big great female character.
Yeah.
Will Lambert, our profiler, Will Lambert says, Wall-E is beautifully done. It's very weird to say that an animated film's cinematography is spectacular, but you can actually say that about this movie. You think Up did a good job with no dialogue for 7 minutes. Wall-E basically had no dialogue for the first 40 minutes, and they were still able to keep you invested in the story. The best sci-fi films are the ones that tell you a story of what can actually happen in the future as a way to discuss topics in today's society. Completely agree. And that is exactly what this film does. And Wall-E is so lovable that you care for everything he does. And I think it should have won the Oscar for Best Original Score.
Well, Ezra Kubero says the best Pixar film I've ever seen is the one I also choose to be the king of all animation. It's none other than Wall-E. Only Pixar is capable of taking a love story between two virtually mute robots and making it one of the most powerful, emotionally resonant romance films of all time. It has some of the most detailed and visually stunning animation that the studio has ever done. It contains plenty of wonderful human moments between these non-human characters, giving them emotions and personalities that are just as complex as every one of ours. Through the power of great science fiction and amazing storytelling by Andrew Stanton and the rest of the Pixar team, Wall-E is one of the films I cherish most in my life and can't stop watching over and over and over again.
Very, very true. I actually was watching this. I hadn't seen it in a while. And I was like, you know what? I wouldn't mind sitting through this again right this second.
Yeah.
It's so, so great. And I know we always say this. We always say, oh, this Fast Five was a tough one. This really, really was. Which, thank goodness, we have a category called The Others, because the others are pretty darn good themselves, like Ratatouille. From 2007, directed by Brad Bird. Think about it. It's about a rat who wants to be a cook. And you're not going, it's a sweet movie. I mean, it's just, this, I gotta say, this easily could have been in our Fast Five.
It could have, yeah.
What are some of yours?
I'd say it would be like the Fast Six.
Yes, Fast Six.
And that was the first Disney Pixar film, wasn't it, when they
After they merged.
Yep. Of course, Toy Story and Toy Story 2. We spoke about Toy Story a bit, but just the series as a whole, I mean, the humanity and the emotion and the innovation that exists. It's like a buddy cop comedy. It's relatable, and each sequel has been fantastic, which is hard to do. And Toy Story 4 will be coming out as well.
June 2017.
Of course, Brave as well, which is the first film to have a female protagonist. It feels more Disney than Pixar to me. It's got a fairy tale spin. Like a nice twist on the fairy tale. Yeah, I like how messy she is and the red hair.
The red hair, you know, the long curly red hair. But I love that it takes this twist that is very, very unexpected. You know, I feel like Brave is an underrated movie. I feel like not a lot of people really embrace it like some of the other ones. But, you know, I just love it because it is so unpredictable and because it does have such a strong female protagonist. Monsters, Inc. You know, I like this movie a lot, directed by Pete Docter, came out in November of 2001, and it's one of the first movies that I saw after 9/11. And I mean, I was like everyone else, completely devastated by 9/11, and I didn't go to the movies for a while. I just thought, like, you know, what's the point? There was so much going on, and I just was in a really bad place. And I saw Monsters, Inc., and I laughed, I cried. It touched my heart. It was clever. And the animation in the film, we talked about this earlier, was so groundbreaking when you look at Sully's fur. I mean, there was so much detail to it. But ultimately, that's what started me writing again. And I also felt like it was okay to start laughing and feeling good again. So for that, I will always be indebted to Monsters, Inc.
And it feels, again, like Toy Story, touching on childhood and these two unlikely buddies. And all about monsters under your bed. I thought that was really inventive.
I mean, who doesn't worry about monsters under the bed, right?
I know, but I love the way they took that story. And then we have Monsters University, which is their take on a college movie.
Yeah,
it's got all the classic like college film touchstones.
A Bug's Life, their second movie, came out in 1998. A lot of people sort of get this confused with DreamWorks' Ants because it came out the same year. Bug's Life is the better movie by far. And underrated. I thought thought it was fun, and I also liked Cars. The first one was pretty good.
Yeah, the second one was just kind of more of the same. But both Cars and Cars 2, I don't think are terrible movies. They're just because Pixar has such a high standard.
Absolutely.
And we hold Pixar movies to such a high standard that it didn't quite get there for me.
Well, a lot of people, again, on our Facebook page, Profiles with Malone and Mantz, make sure you like our Facebook page. The brackets.
The brackets, yeah.
Yes.
Well, this week, Rachel Cushing, Cole Boone, and Michael Kay ran the brackets, and the theme was Best Pixar Feature. So it got down to the semi-finals, Toy Story 3 versus Monsters, Inc., then Up versus The Incredibles. So down to the finals between Toy Story 3 and The Incredibles. Can you guess which one won?
Toy Story 3.
Toy Story 3.
Yes!
74 votes to 58.
Give it up. Let's high five Toy Story 3. Way to go. Thank you so much for doing those brackets. They're so much fun. See, we like to create a community of film lovers. It's not just about Malone and Mantz talking about movies. It's about the profilers chiming in as well. Obviously, you see we read your comments.
It's like Film Geek Friends.
It's Film Geek Friends. Hashtag Film Geek. Hashtag Profile for Life. That brings us to number 2 on our Fast 5, which is...
He is a good and smart master, and he made me this collar so that I may talk. Squirrel!
Squirrel! Up. Released May 29th, 2009. I love this movie. Directed by Pete Docter, who directed the new movie Inside Out. 5 Oscar nominations, including Best Picture. It won 2 for score, Michael Giacchino, for animated feature. Total box office worldwide, $731 million. And without question, Pixar's most emotionally moving and heartfelt film to date.
Really touching, profoundly moving, and quite surreal and dreamlike and strange at the same time. Imaginative. I mean, the idea of lifting a house with a bunch of balloons, that's crazy and so colourful, the whole film as well.
Yeah.
People didn't think that this would be a commercial success. They didn't even license toys for this one at first because they didn't think that it would actually sell that well, but of course it was a huge hit financially and critically. The strangeness really works. The emotion just hits home. I love the idea of like Carl walking through the jungle, dragging his weight on his back, on his house to get to where him and Ellie had always dreamed of. And the whole theme, I mean, I think one of the reasons the montage makes me cry is not just the idea of losing a loved one, it's the idea of worrying that you haven't done everything you wanted to do in your life. And then, of course, when he finds out later that Ellie is like, the adventure was with you. I
just love when he looks at the book and she writes, "Thanks for the adventure. Now go have a new one."
Yeah, that's it really hits home.
Hits home. But
it's
even
like no regrets.
Like when he takes off and he's on his way and he looks at the picture of Ellie on his wall and he says, "We're on our way, Ellie." Yeah. Like, I mean, here was a guy, Carl, who was lonely. He is grumpy. He's sad. He gets arrested. He gets kicked out, or he's going to get kicked out of his house, and he has nothing to lose. He just misses all the times, and it's happened a lot during the movie, when he would sit down and he would just take a deep breath and just sigh because he missed his wife so much.
That he stopped living his own life. But then amongst it all, it's really funny. Like the dog, the squirrel, like that. Yeah, it's
the collar
so much.
that didn't work.
Yeah.
So what happened here? I mean, it's like you don't see that coming. Like, what is going on here?
Really, like out of nowhere, very experimental. The entire movie, I love it.
John Ratzenberger, shout out. He played construction foreman Tom, and I'm sure a lot of people, a lot of profilers watching have seen Up, and if they haven't, I'm just going to spoil the very last image of the movie, because when you see Carl let the house go, and he's like, it's an allegory for letting go emotionally as well. But where does the house end up? It ends up on Paradise Falls, where it will sit forever.
Yeah.
It's just like
right where it's supposed to be.
Good to the last drop kind of Pixar movie. Satisfying in every way.
Kate Stuff says, the feels. And Rachel Cushing says, just got chills. Yeah.
Oh, wow. The Hollywood Reporter in their review said it was a winsome, touching, gloriously rendered, high-flying adventure. Carl was actually based on sort of a mix of Walter Matthau and Spencer Tracy.
And Ed Asner is great.
He's perfect, right? This is the first Pixar film to be shown in 3D. And, this is interesting. So over the weekend, I was moderating a press conference for Inside Out with the cast from Inside Out. It was Amy Poehler, Bill Hader, Mindy Kaling, and Phil
buddies.
Smith, and we're buddies.
All your buds.
All the buds. So one of the questions from the audience was, "What is your favorite Pixar movie?" And each one of them said Up.
Wow.
They all said Up, and I'm like, I gotta remember this for profiles.
That's so cool. Well, Miss Movies, Brianne Chandler loves Up as well, says Up really tugged at my heartstrings. If you aren't crying in the first 5 minutes, then you might not be human. Yeah, even I cried that. One of my daughter's favorite attractions at Disneyland is following Russell's tracks at the Wilderness Explorer Camp, Redwood Creek Challenge Trail. Speak, Alicia. I love how Disney has incorporated many Pixar favorites into their parks in many ways, from rides to lands to using their film scores throughout the park. I always hear the score to Up when I am there, and I think it is practically perfect in every way.
Well, Mark Tordai, who's on an adventure of his own right now in Australia, says Up is a beautiful story about loss, grief, moving on, and youth helping the elderly. It's touching, it's emotional, it's a fun tale about a man's unrelenting quest to save his home. The first 10 minutes express more without any words than most films these days in 2 hours.
So
absolutely true. This is certainly my personal favorite Pixar movie. And that brings us to another movie that is definitely going to be on everybody's list of favorite Pixar movies. Inside Out. Now, this movie absolutely should have been in our Fast Five at like number 4, maybe even number 3, maybe even number 2. But I feel like, you just need to sort of like see it a few times and let it simmer before you can really place it. But it is definitely one of Pixar's very best films. And my review, which I have yet to post, I wrote, not only does its 15th movie, Inside Out, qualify as the most ambitious, inventive, and wildly imaginative film to come across the big screen in a long time, it's also a glorious, sweet, funny, charming, and moving masterpiece that fits the bill as Pixar's best outing since Toy Story 3.
I can see that on a cover somewhere, Mr. Mantz, on a DVD cover, I'm sure.
I don't know. Who cares?
I agree. As I said, I saw it in Cannes. I had a really great time watching the film, and we were really lucky because we got to sit down with the director, Pete Docter, who was behind many other great films like Up. And we got to speak to him about working at Pixar and about Inside Out. Yeah, he was there from the very beginning. He was there from Toy Story.
Yeah,
so it was a real treat.
So on a 20th anniversary of Toy Story, on our celebration of Pixar, and in honor of one of their very best movies, Inside Out, here is the conversation with Pete Docter.
Roll it.
Pete Docter, thank you so much for joining us on Profiles.
Yeah. And we're really excited to talk about Inside Out because it's one of Pixar's best films, in my opinion.
Wow, cool.
Can you start out by telling us where the inspiration came from?
Yeah, we had just finished Up, and my daughter, she was actually the voice of young Ellie in Up, if you remember the beginning of that. She was kind of a lot like that character, actually, at that time. And then she turned 11. And she got a lot more quiet, and I was like, what's this about? I mean, this is what's going on in her head. And that's kind of the starting point of this film, was just trying to explain why certain things happen, why we act the way we do. And emotions as characters just seemed like, oh, that's exactly what animation does really well. Strong, opinionated, caricatured personalities.
Up won the Oscar for Best Animated Feature. Also for Best Original Score, Michael Giacchino, yay! Yeah. But so, in terms of following Up, what were the challenges to make a film that is easily Pixar's most imaginative and inventive and original film to date?
Wow, thank you. For me, when I'm starting out, all I'm thinking is, like, how can I do something that I haven't seen before? If there's ever like even a faint hint of, we've done that already with Jessie in Toy Story 2 or whatever it is, we try to steer away into something new and fresh. So this one, I felt like, okay, this is our chance to take people into places that everyone's ultimately familiar with, but they've never actually seen before. Like our challenge is to visually represent things like why songs get stuck in your head, where weird dreams come from, and the train of thought, and all these kind of fun things. That was our job.
It's kind of interesting that this is coming out on the 20th anniversary of the first film, or around about Toy Story, which you worked on. So can you tell us about working on the very first ever computer animated feature?
Yeah, it was fun. It was not, I guess the thing I'd say is it was like a bunch of guys making a film in the garage for fun. Like, it really kind of shocked me and surprised me when it came out and people around the world saw it, because I felt like, wait, we were just doing that for fun. You know, I would have done that even if you hadn't have paid me, kind of thing. So it was pretty amazing project, and I'm so amazed that I was a part of it.
But when did you realize, while you were making that movie, hey guys, this is going to change everything in terms of animation, especially computer animation?
Me personally, not until after it came out. I think some folks now claim, like John has said, oh, he realized that if we had done, if it not worked, if the film had not been successful, then it would have ruined it for everybody, because people have a tendency to paint with very broad colors, and if one computer animated film didn't do well, people would kind of generalize, oh, computer animation, it's no good. So we tried to focus on the storytelling, the characters, you know, relationships, and I think that paid off. I think pretty early on into the film, you kind of forget that you're watching characters. True. You know, you're just watching a movie about these people.
Yeah, Toy Story has a lot of emotion. I never usually cry in films, but Pixar movies get me every time, particularly the montage in Up.
Oh, cool.
Which kills me every time. How did that come about, and what was it like working on that montage in particular?
That was fun. It was originally written as little scenes with little dialogue, and it got a little long. So as we storyboarded it, Ronnie Del Carmen, who was drawing it, said, you know, guys, I think this would really be nice with no dialogue. So we tried that, just music and sound effects, and ultimately we even got rid of the sound effects. So it just really becomes kind of what I think, to me, maybe why people like it is by only hinting at things, the audience is able to put their own specifics in. You imagine what they're talking about and the conversations and the emotion of it all.
Yeah, the imagination is the best special effect.
And it makes me not want to get married ever.
Well, the other films, I mean, we're talking about the whole shebang with Pixar. My favorite, my personal favorite, is a movie. It is a post-apocalyptic movie, okay? And it is a love story between two robots, and it works.
And that was one of those where, in a sense, in a weird way, that goes back to Luxo Jr., the short film. And a lot of people were really nervous about doing something with so little dialogue, and especially a main character who doesn't really talk. But we just pointed back to that lamp short, and people love it, right? And you instantly can relate to these characters. They don't even have eyeballs, you know, they just have they're lamps. So coming from that tradition, we had real confidence that we could pull it off. It was not easy. It was really a difficult one. But you start with something as sympathetic as this little guy who is this immense job, an entire planet full of trash, and yet he soldiers on. Every day he comes there and cubes a little bit of garbage, and so you're rooting for him, you know.
He's so sweet. He doesn't say anything.
He doesn't whine about it and complain.
Yeah, he's so cute. But when it comes to working with actors on dialogue movies like Inside Out, is it all written beforehand, before the actors come on board and do voiceovers, or with this cast, when you've got such great comedians, do you improvise a lot?
For sure. Yeah. I think the important thing is that to realize, like, it's not just from scratch we walk in and go, let's make up some stuff. I mean, we are creating this entire plot, and even with scenes that we know exactly what's going to happen. Now that we have a sort of framework, we let these amazing brains loose and we play. And so you have Bill Hader and Mindy Kaling and, you know, everybody considering and adding their own ideas to this. So it was a real dream cast.
As we are celebrating the 20th anniversary of the movie that started it all, what can we expect next from Squirrel? What can we expect next from Pixar? What can we expect next from Pixar in the near future and for the next 20 years?
The thing I love about working at Pixar, and this comes right from John Lasseter, he's looking for the directors to put themselves on the screen. So we have new directors as well as old seasoned directors bringing thousands of ideas to the table, and what we do know is that they're all going to be heartfelt, emotional, funny. They're a reflection of the people who make them.
thank you so much for joining us.
Thank
for
you.
Profiles. This is a real pleasure. Thank you.
You made me so scared when you said squirrel. I jumped out of my seat. I was like, what? Was so funny.
I was like, where am I going to put this?
It's so
got to
funny.
be in there somewhere.
It's got to be like random somewhere.
But the other thing I just want to say,
nice.
he was so nice, and to talk to not just the director of Up, which obviously everyone loves, and Inside Out, which everyone is going to love, and someone who's been there since the beginning. But he was super, super nice guy.
So nice.
And
spoke really well.
And I want to mention this too, is that Inside Out, like Up and WALL-E and the Toy Story films, these are movies that should be taught in film schools.
Yeah.
Like, there's so much to them. You could actually have a film class on the movies of Pixar.
Definitely.
And one thing I wanted to say too, and I just wrote this down for my review of Inside Out, it's this good. One can only anticipate the intellectual wonders and visual delights that are bound to reveal themselves with repeated viewings of Inside Out, which all but solidifies it as an instant classic that will be embraced, dissected, and enjoyed for generations to come.
It teaches you a lot about psychology, Inside Out.
Definitely
really does, and how your brain works.
Well, that brings us to number 1 in our Fast Five, which is...
It's okay.
He's looking for us. And he's looking for us.
Toy Story 3.
Toy Story 3.
And by extension, Toy Stories 1 and 2. This movie released on June 18, 2010. Directed by Lee Unkrich. Cost about $200 million. Box office $1 billion worldwide. 5 Oscar nominations, including Best Picture, 2 wins for Best Song, Randy Newman, We Belong Together, and Best Animated Feature. This is the best of the series, a masterpiece. And on a scale of 1 to 10, Toy Story goes to infinity and beyond.
It's also the first animated film to make $1 billion, and it works as a comedy, as a drama, as an action, a story all about memories and moving on and being forgotten and escaping and growing up and friendship and connecting to the child within you. There's so much happening, and usually when it comes to sequels, or especially threequels, studios go, okay, well, let's just do more of the same that we did in the first 2. Toy Story 3, they took a huge risk by making it really dark, quite emotional. I mean, it's got elements of a horror movie in terms of the lighting,
and
the way that
Big Baby
is terrifying.
Baby was creepy.
Lotso, who looks so sweet, as the villain.
Yeah, Lotso hugging there.
The daycare looks like Alcatraz. I mean, it's scary, and we spoke about the scene before where they think they're going to die. Like, there are real stakes in this movie.
Right, there mortality, obsolescence, and in addition to every single thing you just said, this movie is also about the relentless passage of time.
Yep.
Like, when you see Andy walk in the room and he's a grown-up, you're like, whoa, Andy, it's been 11 years since Toy Story 2, and boy, it flew by mighty, mighty fast. This is I think it's just a brilliant movie. That last scene when you see Andy hand off his toys, but he plays with them one last time. Plays with them one last time.
That gives me tears as well.
And then he drives off, and Woody says, "So long, partner." It's good. It breaks your heart. But I mean, this movie was the highest grossing animated movie of all time until Frozen passed it. USA Today said it was the best of the 3 and everything a movie should be. Hilarious, touching, exciting, and clever. John Ratzenberger, of course, was Ham. Which of the toys was your favorite?
In Toy Story 3, it was Ken.
Was it Ken? Oh, you like Ken?
I love Ken because it was so funny, and then Ken also took a darker turn. But I love the way he is like showing Barbie around, and when he sees Barbie and all the jokes. Because that's the thing of like it is dark, but it's also really, really, really funny. There's like she's 1 in a million, not to me, you know. And then with the clothes, when she's ripping the clothes, he's like, no, not my outfits.
I love Rex.
You love Rex
because he's a T-Rex, but he's so sweet and he's such a scaredy cat, and he's always worried about stuff. While with Sean, who was the voice in Inconceivable, he's always
Princess Bride.
But this is definitely it was the first Pixar movie released in IMAX, and interesting that when actors go in to record their voices, they usually go in by themselves. But Tom Hanks and Tim Allen insisted on going and doing their voices together so they could really bring out the best in each other. They always had great chemistry, so they kept that going. Yeah, definitely the camaraderie.
Yeah, you look at these films and you look at Toy Story 3 and you think, wow, Pixar is fearless.
They really are.
They will try anything and it works, and they're not worried about what people will think. I mean, they think about their audience, but they're always trying to think of the best possible story.
Well, this was the best possible story. Going back to the Movie Mantz review archive, so my review for Toy Story 3, I said if Toy Story 2 was about identity and purpose, then Toy Story 3 is about change and mortality. That may sound heavy, but that's what makes it the best and also at times the darkest of the series.
Oh yeah, Cole Boone says Toy Story 3 is my favorite animated film of all time. When the first Toy Story came out, I wasn't even 2 years old. Ooh, it makes me feel old.
Wow.
Yet it's one of the earliest film memories that I have. I grew up with Pixar and the Toy Story films. Flash forward 15 years and I'm a 16-year-old who's been truly moved by the emotional, funny and entertaining film that is Toy Story 3. I love how it drew inspiration from The Great Escape. It's a very good reference there.
Yep.
And how it was able to seamlessly reintroduce these characters back into our lives, as well as give us several new and beloved characters to enjoy. Toy Story 3 is arguably Pixar at its finest, and it absolutely deserved to be nominated for Academy Award for Best Picture. Hashtag Film Geek. Hashtag
Profiler for Life. And Aaron Turner, finishing off our comments from Profiler, says, while The Incredibles is my overall favorite Pixar film, nothing ripped my heart out like Toy Story 3. As I'm posting this, I'm getting teary-eyed just thinking about those last 15 minutes. The film drives home the fact that we all eventually have to grow up, yet it also shows the joy we can have by enjoying things that we liked with other people. I love to play with my young nephews and watch them enjoying the same toys that I did as a child. Hashtag Film Geek, hashtag Profiler for Life. One more set of stuff of business here.
Before I close my notebook.
Before you close the notebook and we call it a show, make sure you go to iTunes and subscribe, rate, and review us on iTunes. Even if you're watching it on YouTube, go to iTunes anyway. We need these ratings and reviews. Please let us know what you think. Speaking of YouTube, go to youtube.com/Popcorn Talk Network. Subscribe to our show. Share it with everyone. We love doing profiles, but it is a lot of work, and we are doing it for nothing, just out of the joy of our hearts. It is a true labor of love.
So much fun.
But we love to do it. It's so much fun. Please help us keep doing it by subscribing. Go to our Facebook page, Profiles with Malone and Mantz. Like it, join in on the fun, and that's where you'll find out who our next profile is going to be. So if you like our page, you'll be the first to know. Make sure you follow us on Twitter, @Alicia Malone, @Movie Mantz, @Alicia Malone, @Movie Mantz, @Alicia Malone, @Movie Mantz, and of course, please follow our Profiles handle, which is Profiles SK. That gives it for another great show of profiles.
Close my notebook and let's recap our Fast Five.
Coming at number 5 is
Finding Nemo.
Number 4, The Incredibles. Number 3 is Wall-E. Number 2 is Up. Number 1 is Toy Story 3. Whew, what a show.
What a show. That was really fun. Thank you, everyone who's watching live. Thanks for all your comments. Thanks for being part of this show. It was a really good time, and we'll be back soon with our next profile.
So until next time, bye.
From producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire Popcorn Talk Network, we would like to thank you for tuning in. For questions or comments, be sure to visit popcorntalk.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of the Popcorn Talk Network. The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Popcorn Talk Network or its owners or principals.